Okay, good evening everybody and welcome to the Hall Green North and Sparkhill Ward Forum meeting. Thanks everybody for giving up your evening to come along. This is a Teams meeting. Those of you who've been to these online ward forums before, it's a slightly different way of doing it, and hopefully a bit more interactive because everybody is able to sort of come on camera and speak. What I'm going to ask people to do, we've got a fairly packed agenda, so I'm going to ask people that if they do have questions, if they could use the raise hand function, and I'll take that. And also just to make sure that we save all the broadband, if people could make sure that when they're not speaking, if they could have the cameras off and microphones on mute. There is a chat function where people can comment, and I'm actually going to ask everybody just to put in the chat their full name. If you want to put which street you're from, that's good. If not, if you can put whether you're from Hall Green North, Sparkhill, and if you're a member or you're representing a particular community group, that would be great. And the same for the people who are here from the council, just so that we know who's here. This is a public meeting organised by the council, so the code of conduct applies. So, you know, basically everybody be polite to each other, wait to be asked and go through the chair. And the same applies to the chat. This is recorded, so if people want to watch again or recommend it to friends and neighbours, it'll be going up on the council's YouTube channel, and the chat will be visible. So with those housekeeping matters in order, if people could start putting in the chat who they are, where they're from. We've got 4 main items tonight. So we've got Alison Brinkworth, who is going to come and give us a bit of information about the census and how that's going to happen in this area. We've got Hamira Sultan, who's going to talk about the Green Champions programme, and we have Andrew Lindop, who's going to talk about long-term and plans for Stratford Road, and also especially want to hear from people who are from local community groups or who are involved on all the ways that we can keep building on the great work that people are doing in the community. So we'll start off now, and I'll hand over to Alison. Alison, thanks very much for coming along tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and hello everybody. I've got a few slides to share. I don't know if you have to give me like authorization to share them because the button sort of is greyed out at the moment, but basically you've probably all seen postcards that have come to you in the post with census all over them. From today, everybody will be receiving a letter as well, which has a code so you can do the census online. And this year it's only every 10 years the census, and this is the first time it's been digital first. So that means that we're encouraging everyone to try and do it online first, but they can get paper copies if they need them. But we want everyone to be included and take part because although you've probably heard of the census from things like who do you think you are and historic things, it's actually the information that you give in the survey is what's used to plan and get funding for the next decade for the area. So say there's a lot of people who are going to be of childbearing age in the next 10 years, that helps plan for more midwives, and it could be for more bus services, schools, doctor surgeries. So that's why it's really important that everyone's counted. So I don't think I can share at the moment. So what I'll do is I'll just talk through some of the support that's available to you all. I'm part of a team for South Birmingham, and we're going to be there helping everyone with if they've got language issues and they need translations, or if you have accessibility and you need things like large print or braille, or there's British Sign Language videos. There's also 50 different translations on the website for a guide to help you that you can download. And what I'll do is I'll put it in the chat after for the website where you can find that. And Sparkhill and Hall Green are really important areas. There's a lot of diversity, there's a lot of people, and we want all of them to be counted, really. So it's just to say that the census is important to help the community. It helps all of you because it's the only survey of its kind that gives a snapshot of Birmingham right now. And so coming out of COVID and following Brexit, the results of this survey will help plan for the next years to come after such sort of extreme pandemics and things that we've been through. So by filling it in, Census Day is actually on March the 21st, Sunday, but as soon as you get the letter from this week, you can actually go online and fill it in. And there's numbers on there if you need support. And then following Census Day, people will start to contact you from the census if you haven't filled it in to check what sort of help that you need, because it is a legal requirement. So so you'll start to see people from the census in the community, but it is purely done through COVID safety requirements. So they'll have masks and hand sanitizer and be keeping their distance. But if you have any questions, you'll probably see the advertising around. Please just phone the number or look on the website, or if you contact the councillors, they should have our details and they can pass messages on to us. But that's the sort of nitty-gritty of it, really. So I think I don't know if there's any questions, because we will be holding some sort of virtual sessions, because obviously with COVID, some of the face-to-face contact can't happen. So we'll be promoting those. So that's about it, really. If there's anybody got any questions.
Thanks very much, Alison. And I'm sorry that we can't do the screen sharing unless unless we've got the presentations beforehand. But that was a really useful snapshot. I have to say, as a historian, doing the census is really important, because then you can go back and find out who lived in your house and, you know, what your grandparents did. It's a magnificent resource. Apart from, I think it was 1913, when there was a suffragette campaign and all the suffragettes refused to fill it in. So actually, if a house isn't on a 1913 census, it usually means a suffragette lived there. But I'm not encouraging anyone to do that. I hope everyone does it, and we'll get information out through council and councillor websites. So I think we've got some questions. I think I saw Councillor Brennan's hand go up first.
Thank you, Councillor Robson. I was just wondering what the time frame was on census. When would people have to fill everything in and get it back to you?
So we're encouraging people to try and do it by Census Day on the 21st and make it a bit of an event, because it's supposed to be exactly that day in history every 10 years. What your circumstances are on that day, which is the 21st. But if, just say, you find that difficult, or there's other circumstances around it, you do have sort of into early April, and then you'll sort of get reminder letters. So towards the end of April will be the real cut-off. But if you can try and do it as close to the 21st as possible, or if you, because of COVID, we're all in lockdown, it's not like we're going to be away or on holiday and things that much, but you could do it earlier, and writing in how your circumstances would be on the 21st. But yeah, the earlier the better, but we'll try and do it around Census Day. But if you go into April, it'll still be okay. And one thing I wanted to say actually about what was just mentioned about the historic side of things, in terms of data protection, the Office for National Statistics is behind the census, and it's separate from the government, and none of your details are shared. In fact, it's all anonymised before it's released, and then it's locked away for 100 years. So all the people that sort of do genealogy and tracking down their family tree, that's because after 100 years it's released. So actually this year it'll be 1921's census and the personal information from that that's released to the public. So anything you write in the census, that's completely confidential and nobody will see it for 100 years. So just to put people's mind at ease, really.
Thank you. Thank you. So only people who are just born, and if they live to 100, they'll be able to check their own data. But it is a fantastic resource, and just really input, because councillors, we're always asking for money. We're always trying to get money and resources for our areas, and if people don't fill it in, you know, that we don't, you know, it could come back and say, well, we've only got 10,000 people in Hall Green, when actually we've got 17,000, and they will look at us and they say, well, we're only giving you money for that. So that's really important in trying to get resources for the area. I've got a question from Simon Suleiman.
Hi, thank you, Councillor Lou. Hi, Alison. Thank you for sharing that with us. I just had a quick question. In the past, on the census, under ethnicity, my ethnicity isn't listed on there. So I'm Kashmiri, and we've got quite a large Kashmiri population in and around Birmingham. So I was just wondering, what sort of advice do you have then for us, what we should do? Because I really want to like put down what my ethnicity is, and I want that recognized. So yeah, just what would you advise for others?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that, because actually there is the Kashmiri Identity campaign that we're working with as well, and they're promoting it. And because there's so many sort of different ethnicities now, how people recognise themselves, there's a few of the sort of more common ones, and then there's other. And so we would encourage, like, under other, put Kashmiri, because it's how you identify yourself, and we want to understand that. And actually in the last census in 2011, Birmingham registered 494, I think it was, different ethnicities, because we're such a diverse city in it, and it sort of explains the makeup of it. So I'd say definitely put how you feel in Kashmiri, but it would go under other if it's not listed.
Thank you. That's a really good question. So I've got dual nationality. So would I go under other and write my two nationalities?
Well, nationality is actually one that we were just.
Well, it's I mean, is where does the nationality start and ethnicity? But we won't get into that discussion. But I have two different identities.
Yeah, because I think there's a nationality question and an ethnicity question. And on the nationality, if you do have two nationalities, you need to decide for yourself which one you would put yourself under. So it's one of those where you know, you might feel a bit torn, but it's which one you think that you'd fall under your preference. So that's left to you if it is dual, but if not, it's what's in your passport.
Right. Have we got any more questions for Alison? Again, if people do have them, we can pass them on and take them up. No? Okay, well, thank you very much. Lovely to meet you, and let's hope we get a really good return on the census in our area. Will we find out? Do we find out area by area who does the best?
Yeah, you do find out actually, but it takes a little bit of time. So maybe towards the end of the year into next year. But we do get the response rates, and actually, like from the last time, it was something like 91% in average in Birmingham. It's really high, and it's great to see everyone taking part in that. So have fun with it and do it as a family, or make it an event, really.
Right, and we won't have to wait 100 years for that information.
No.
Okay, thank you very much for coming.
No problem. Bye, everyone.
Bye. And we'll move on to the next item, and we've got Hamira Sultan, who is from the public health section of Birmingham City Council, and she's going to talk to us about the Green Champions programme, which has got lots, I hope we'll hear it's got lots of applications in our two areas. Hamira, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robson. And just if I may also add to Alison's presentation, myself and my husband just filled in our census online today, and it was so quick and so easy, and really exciting to add our 4-year-old son Isa, who hasn't yet been part of the census. So that was really exciting to do that today. And just to completely reiterate Councillor Robson's points about filling it out from public health perspective, we rely on this data to be able to plan services with the population. So yeah, really enjoyed that from Alison. So green spaces. Well, thank you so much for giving up some of your ward forum to hear from me tonight. I've also got a couple of colleagues here on the call. We've got Debbie Needle, who's popped her details in the chat, and who's our comms and engagement lead for the Future Parks programme. We've also got Andy Lindop, who's not here from a Future Parks capacity, but in more his day job, but he's very much part of our team as well. And essentially, the Future Parks work that we're doing, we're one of 8 cities in the UK funded by a national trust and also the by National Heritage Lottery Fund to find out ways of how do we actually embed the value of green space across the whole of the council and into our communities. I think most people, I'm sure, during COVID-19 have changed their relationship with green spaces. On a personal level, my local park is in Swanshurst Park, not too far from Hall Green North actually, and you know it's become a place that we frequent nearly every day, and it would be great to hear if we have time from residents who are on this call today, just to see kind of how green spaces features in your life now. I've had a quick look at the different kinds of green space that we have in Hall Green and Sparkhill. And I've got a presentation which I'll send to Beverly to send out to everybody who's attended here today, because we haven't really got time to go through that in detail. But if I just bring up that presentation, and we've got, I would say, roughly, let me just have a quick, sorry, wrong presentation I'm looking at. We've got at least 20 different green spaces that fall under Hall Green North and also Sparkhill. Some of them are allotments as well. But only 3 of those green spaces, and this is mainly in the Hall Green North area, so Greet Mill Meadow, John Morris Jones Walkway and the Sayre Holmill Recreation Ground. Only those have actually got a Friends of Park group at the moment. And the reason I bring this up and why it's related to the Green Champion programme is, you know, one of the things that we're trying to encourage in Future Parks is more community engagement with green spaces. We know that green spaces need care, they need love, that they need attention. The council budget only goes so far in terms of maintaining those green spaces. But what we've also found is that where we have community groups looking after green spaces, the quality of that green space goes up, and also the connectedness of the community around that green space also goes up as well. So if anybody's interested in finding out about how to become a Friends of Park, either to how to set one up or how to become a part of a Friends of Park group, then there are contact details in the presentation, which you'll hopefully be able to see when Beverly sends it out. Another thing that I just wanted to talk to you about briefly was, just before I go on to the Green Champions programme, the work that we're doing in Future Parks is really around 4 key areas. We've got four different pilots. So we've got a children's pilot, an employment pilot, a health and wellbeing pilot, and also a housing pilot. Now, the children's pilot actually is just a little bit further south than Hall Green North. It's in Dorbury Fields in Kings Heath and Banwood. And what we've been doing here is really helping residents to notice their park, what we kind of call activating the park. So we've put a nature trail there, we've put a crowdfunding resource there as well. So we're raising money for a local habitat to help the local slow worm population. Those of you who don't know much about slow worms, they're legless lizards, and Debbie's a bit more of an expert than I am. But what we found is even within 3.5 weeks, we've reached £1,000 of public donations for this cause. So I just wanted to share with you that there's lots of things that we can't, that we can actually that we can actually support you with. From an employment perspective as well, one of the things that we're trying to do is break down the stereotype of who works in a green space sector. So I myself, I'm a British Pakistani Muslim woman, kind of first generation here in Birmingham, grew up in Perry Bar, now living in Moseley. And one of the reasons I say that is because we don't have enough representation of the Birmingham community in our parks and green spaces. And that isn't just the case in Birmingham, it happens all over the country. So I'm delighted to see a real mix of people here on the Ward Forum today. And we can share with you we've got a skills showcase which, you know, shows people, especially young people, the whole different range of skills and jobs that there are in the green spaces world. Most people think of gardener, which is a really important job in the green spaces. It's not the only one. So we'd really encourage you to have a look at that and share with any young people in your family. We're also doing some work on health and well-being. We've done some work in Whitton Lakes, which has really highlighted the importance of having activities and the kinds of things that residents can do in the green spaces. So again, if anyone here is interested in how you might set up a walking group, or I don't know, get some Tai Chi, get some Zumba, something like that in your local park and green space, we can help you with that. We've also seen local people take a really strong lead in this area. And actually get some training to deliver what we call sensory walks. So this isn't just about going for a walk in the park, but it's about using your eyes, using your ears, using your sense of smell. Maybe not taste so much at the moment, but come kind of early autumn and so forth, and the summer when more kind of fruits are around. Absolutely, that's what you can get out of a sensory walk. And also, our housing pilot is all about the fact that the only kind of green space that we have, parks are not the only green spaces that we have. We know that not everybody lives near a park in Birmingham, even though we have 591 parks and open spaces. We also know that people live in social housing and sheltered accommodation, and people have green space which literally in front of their door, but they don't always know what to do with it. So again, if any residents here know of any community groups that would like to connect more to their immediate green space where they live, maybe set up a communal garden, again, we can help with that. So just in terms of the green spaces of the Green Champions programme, if anything that I've said to you today makes you think, oh, I would love to get more involved in this, we're running a Green Champions programme, which has got 80 people signed up to it now. We had our very first launch event only yesterday, but don't worry if you've missed that. The idea is that we will connect you with like-minded people from all around Birmingham, both within the council and outside of the council, to help solve green space problems that either you're facing or other people are facing, using a collaborative approach and also building up your contact base so you've got some key people to go to for help. So again, if you're interested in joining the Green Space, the Green Champions programme, we've got all the links in the presentation that you can share, as well as key contact details of who to speak to. We're also really keen to thank you, Debbie, for posting that in the link. We're also really keen to hear your stories, and I'm sure you've probably heard all this before in terms of surveys and consultations, but what we really want to do is hear your stories. We'd like to hear your stories about green spaces. What were your first memories of green spaces? What are your hopes and dreams for green spaces in the future? Some of you might have children, grandchildren, and you might be wondering what their future looks like in terms of the environment and sustainability. We're actually writing a 25-year green space strategy. So we've got a mechanism to collect those stories, but also if there are any community groups here who would be willing to gather stories from 25 people from our diverse community. So we've got particular ethnic groups we'd like to get young young people. We'd like to get people with disabilities, where we'll be paying those groups £500 to collect stories. So again, all the information is on the presentation. And one thing that I would also really say is, when we look at Birmingham as a city, when you look at a map, the way in which our city changes in terms of deprivation, there's a huge spread across the city. Some areas are way less deprived than others. And we also see a correlation. Those areas that are more affluent actually have more access to better quality green space, which is really unfair. You know, my world is public health, and it's all about inequalities. And I'm sure the COVID-19 response has made people even more aware of the inequalities in our city. And we absolutely believe that helping to support all the community to access green space, not just the more affluent community, but all the community, regardless of their colour, their race, their ethnicity, their religion, their sexuality, all of those things should make a difference. So what we're trying to do almost in the Future Parks programme is actually environmental justice, where we're trying to make it fair for people to access green space, regardless of where they live, or who they are. So again, if any of this resonates, then please do get in touch. And I will probably, Debbie, could you maybe put your contact email into the link here, because that's the main contact that we've got for Future Parks, as Debbie is our engagement lead and comms lead for the programme. I'll stop there, Councillor Robson. I could go on forever talking about green spaces, but I'm very happy to take any questions if anybody's got them.
Thank you very much, Hamira. You've come to the right place, because as you notice, green is a big big part of the name in this area. So thank you, and that enthusiasm. What I will I hope you were able to stay on, because we are going to have a whole section about community groups, and I think that's where we might be able to explore that. But we did have, so I'll take some questions now. Also, I think some of this might link into what Andrew will be talking about with some of the spaces along Stratford Road. So where was the question? Was it Abdul Khan who was asking oh, you wanted the web link. Did you have any other questions from the point of view of Friends of Sparkhill Park?
That's one for the information. So obviously starting point where to go now.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Yeah, I was just saying there's no other question I need to actually say.
Really sorry, sorry, the reception's really bad. If you want to type that in the chat, I'll make sure that we read that out. Does anybody else, while we're waiting to hear that question, does anyone else have any questions or comments for Hamira? I think the point you made, Hamira, about the parts that are adopted, you know, the John Morris Walkway, there's the Friends of the Shire Country Park, there's the Sarehole Environmental Action Team, who I was actually out with on very distanced, but we did you know, people just did come out and go along the River Cole and do their own litter picking thing. And then north of Stratford Road, there's Blackberry Way between Stratford Road and Foreman's Road, and that desperately needs friends. That, you know, really needs friends. We also have the Reddings Lane Park by Tyseley Community Centre. Now there's a whole street of that, and the other thing is, you know, people don't kind of say, oh, this is the Hall Green North or Sparkhill boundary. I won't go to another park. I mean, I think, you know, we've got Moseley Bog on our doorstep. You know, you said Swanshurst. Then further south, we've got the Dingles and Trittyford. And I know there's a lot of work going on, and I've really pushed this. And it's both from a flood protection. I mean, Councillor Brennan can probably talk a bit more about the Sparkhill flag flood group. But all the way along the River Cole, we just have such a marvellous resource, and it'd be nice to link up some of the Yardley and Tyseley groups all the way along with that Foreman's Road bit. So I hope we can gee some people up to get excited about getting involved. Abdul Khan, we're still waiting for your. Did you still have a question, or should we move on? Got people typing furiously in the chat, but it's not appearing. Yeah, Councillor Brennan's just pointing out the Wildlife Trust is involved. There are lots of projects, and I think Hamira is the person to connect all these up. I'm not seeing Abdul's message, so we can always pick that up later. Hamira is going to be here for a while, so we'll move on now. And, No, sorry, can't read that. Can't read anything. It hasn't come in the chat, and we still can't hear you very well. So we'll try again later. So don't go away. We'll take Andrew now, and if you keep typing and see if you can maybe move nearer your modem to get a better reception. We'll try. We'll make sure we come back to you. So if I can hand over to Andrew now, please.
Yeah, Councillor Robson, am I okay to share my screen? Because I think I can, or is that against the rules? Would you prefer for me to send it afterwards? It's just I need to be able to read through my presentation. I don't know how I can turn my camera on and read through it at the same time.
Okay, I'm not. I don't think we can give you control of the screen. Bev might know more about that, but so if you'd rather keep your screen up and read from that, you don't have to switch your camera on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's probably easier for me, to be honest. Sorry about that. Yes, hi everyone.
To do with lockdown hair, I'm sure.
No, it's not that. That's a contributing factor. Yeah, I'm a principal development plans officer in Birmingham City Council, and I'm just really here today to kind of give an update on what we're calling the Hall Green framework, which is really a sort of high-level, non-statutory planning framework that we're hoping will cover the 3 Hall Green centres. So obviously the Hall Green Parade, the Highfield Centre, and the Robin Hood Centre. So it was just to give an update on the work we've done to date with it, really. So just to give a bit of context, back in last year, middle of last year, a steering group was formed to sort of look at the Stratford Road and consider what sort of improvements we could do along the Stratford Road corridor between those centres, and look for opportunities. So that was made up of council officers, officers from our transport team, officers from Transport for West Midlands, and obviously local elected members such as Councillor Robson. So we met twice. We did a site visit in August last year. So since that time, I've been busy working away, looking at various areas of research to try and kind of like formulate some high-level ideas that we can sort of test with the community. So we've been looking at the history of the area, council feedback, issues with transport, green infrastructure, demographics, land usage, you name it. And since then, I've kind of been testing some of these ideas with my colleagues in transport and planning. So at the moment, I've written a draft framework, and that's currently with my manager at the moment, just to sign off before it can be made public, unfortunately. So there's a bit of a process it has to go through. Bear with me with this, because it's going to be quite difficult without access to a map or graphics yet. But essentially, from all of the research we've done so far, there were quite a few issues that we identified in Hall Green across all of the centres. So just going from the list here, so we had lots of uneven and broken paving. A key one was the parking forecourts and poor public realm. So there was an issue in terms of what was the pedestrian space on the parking forecourts, and I think there was an issue around pedestrian safety, about cars crisscrossing and coming off and on them, and also the state of the forecourts as well. Tarnished shop frontages and some been in a state of disrepair. A key one, obviously traffic congestion, because it's a main radial road between Solihull and Birmingham, particularly around the Foxhollies junction. Pedestrian safety crossings as well. Lots of green space in the corridor, but a lot of dead space as well, so not really performing any function. And I think one of the key ones as well was about the loss of identity and sense of place of some of the centres, because they're along a very linear route, and obviously over time the level of traffic on the Stratford roads has increased exponentially, and that kind of makes it much more of a traffic dominated corridor. So those are issues that we kind of identified across all of the centres. So in terms of proposals, high level proposals that I've got down at the moment to try and address those, obviously one of the key ones would be a pavement repair scheme, a shopfront improvement scheme. I'll talk later about how we could potentially fund those. One of the ideas that I've been testing with transport colleagues is whether there could be an inter-centre cycle path. So between all 3 of the centres, maybe utilising some of the green infrastructure in the central reservations that could potentially connect those together. So that could be something that also we involve public art with. So it could be, for example, a trail that sort of links in with J.R.R. Tolkien or other people from Hall Green's history. Public realm and street furniture we were looking at, as well as like a palette in terms of colours and a scheme to use for public furniture in each of the centres, just so people know they're coming into Hall Green. And the key one, maximising use of existing green space. So what's already planned, however, some of you might know that there's a planned delivery of a sprint route bus scheme between Hall Green and UK Central via Solihull, and that's going to hopefully deliver new bus stops along the Stratford Road corridor, but also delivery of a local cycle path in the transport infrastructure plan that's known as Local Route 64. So that actually doesn't run down the Stratford Road, it will run parallel along Sparkhill Mill Road and come across Hall Green Road and then link up with Hall Green Station. So I know from some of the feedback that we had in regards to Hall Green Station, I think there was a desire to have extra car parking there. Unfortunately, after my conversations with Transport for West Midlands, it's not on a priority list at the moment in terms of that. And I think they've done quite a few surveys of people parking there, and are finding that it's generally local people parking there. And what currently the council is trying to do is to discourage people within a certain radius of the station from parking there and actually walking and cycling there. So don't blame me for that. That's something my transport colleagues are trying to deliver. But there are also a number of specific issues to Hall Green. I think it's Hall Green, the main Hall Green centre to the north, that we identified as well on our walking through the research. And obviously one of those is congestion due to parking from Yorkmead Primary School. As you come into Hall Green from the north, you know, you've got the junction of the A34 and Shaftmore Lane. I said this would be difficult without maps and pictures. And I think there's a feeling that there should be more of a feature there to say, hey, we're coming to Hall Green, welcome to Hall Green, and dead space as well in the local centre itself between the A34 and Readings Lane. There's a bit of a connectivity issue between South Birmingham College and the local centre as well. And also, although it's slightly out the centre to the south, poor public realm in front of Hall Green Library. So in terms of some of the proposals, unfortunately, I've got a picture here that I can't share with you, but obviously one of the things would be to the north of Hall Green Centre, be looking to put in place a gateway feature or welcome to signs, linking in with the green infrastructure offer and connecting up cycleways from the Cllr Valley Park that links to that, into the Hall Green Centre. And then the open space between the A34 and Readings Lane, looking at turning that into some kind of multifunctional village green that can sort of connects both sides of the local centre to try and create more of a sense of place. I mean, discussing with transport colleagues whether there's any chance for maybe a different sort of road marking there or colour, just to say, hey, we're coming into a centre here. Whether there could be a connection, a short cycleway from Yorkmead Primary School to an inter-centre cycleway that, as I say, connects the centres to try and encourage people to use bicycles to get around, you know, bicycle parking facilities, all quite high level at the moment. And then whether there could be a green infrastructure-led public realm connection from South Birmingham College to the library, and actually some sort of multifunctional space in front of South Birmingham College as well, because it's quite a large open space there that again is currently underutilised at the moment, and whether there could be activities there in terms of community growing or to do with the college activities such as outdoor learning, who knows, but these are some ideas that we want to test with the community. So that's the Hall Green Centre. Just going to move on to Highfield Road Centre now. So I think the key issue with Highfield Centre is there's large areas of underutilised open space, particularly in the central reservation. And then there's sort of like, in planning terms, a lack of a central hub because you've got the Stratford Road, which is effectively dissecting the Highfield Centre and obviously the Highfield Road and the Fox Hollies Road as well. And again, in terms of centre's place, it's quite traffic dominated. And obviously that road and the roads around it has been subject to a lot of complaints from the community in terms of safety and congestion, and in terms of how the junction actually works, and it's heavily traffic dominated. So some of the proposed solutions so far would be to actually have a transport feasibility study commissioned for that junction, and to see if that can be designed in a better way that actually reduces current traffic congestion and can improve safety for pedestrians, whether we need to look at further pedestrian crossings around that area. just to the northeast, I think it's north of the Bull's Head pub, the old Bull's Head pub, there's actually an area of public open space as well that seemed to be quite underutilised at the moment. And whether that could be some kind of multifunctional village green as well for the Highfield Centre, and whether actually in terms of if that junction as well could be repurposed in any way, whether there could be some extra space that was used in terms of trying to create sort of a small village square for the Highfield Road Centre is something that we could potentially explore as well through the transport study. And again, a lot along that corridor, a sort of inter-centre cycle route that will connect from the Highfield Centre to Hall Green and to the south to Robin Hood Centre. So those are some of those proposals. Moving swiftly on to the Robin Hood Centre. So again, sorry, I can't show you these, but I suppose the key issue with this one is that really the centre is obviously, it's the traffic junction at the end of the day, and it feels like it hollows out the centre in a way. So you've got a large area of dead open space in the middle. I think it looks like something's been attempted to be done with it in the past, but it sort of hasn't really taken off. And then obviously it's a major junction and there's issues with pedestrian access, congestion around that junction. I mentioned parking forecourts again earlier on, and the issue of, well, what's the pedestrian part of this? What is the place for people, cars to park? Some of them look quite untidy, and there's a large commercial property to the southeast of that centre, which has been empty for a few years now, according to our research, and is starting to look a bit dilapidated. So we're probably looking at opportunities to work with whoever owns that at the moment to sort of bring that back into use. In terms of options for the island itself, is whether again we look at some type of formal multifunctional green space in that centre, or actually to the north where I think there's a public house, whether we look at some form of green space there. But again, like with the Highfield Centre, I think this is an area where we probably want to look at a transport study if we were to do any remodelling there. And a out there idea is actually to connect the centre of the Robin Hood Island to that area of open space to the north that's mainly the car park for the pub, and see if there could be some kind of village common there. But that would only work obviously if transport modelling said it could potentially work. And then the other issue with all of this is the fact that the sprint route may potentially go through the Robin Hood Island, or it could go around. We don't know at the moment. So there's a lot of what ifs with it really. And also to have some kind of gateway feature into Hall Green from the southeast. So that's kind of like a quick round robin of the general ideas and proposals so far. In terms of next steps, I'm hoping that in the next month we'll have the graphics of that document done and you can look at it in more detail and look at what we're sort of suggesting on a high level. And once we've got some kind of approval from the steering group on that, hopefully we'd have a bespoke consultation in Hall Green on those proposals, and then following that, collate that information and take it to the steering group again. And again, if we have approval from that, we'd start a process of adopting it. I've looked at quite a few options of funding this at the moment. I've looked at about 11, well, I've spoke with 11 different organisations to see how all of these things can be delivered at the moment. I have to admit it's quite difficult. And the problem is this will probably end up being a non-statutory plan, which basically means in planning terms that it doesn't really have any weight. So what I was going to suggest for something for the ward councillors to take away was whether they might want to consider looking at a neighbourhood plan for Hall Green, so that any sort of development proposals in that area could have there'd be some weight to kind of say, well, this is what we want for Hall Green, this is what we want you to sort of help us provide through section 106 and things like that.
We're getting a bit technical.
Sorry, yeah. So basically what that is just money from a development that we can use to sort of fund facilities and services that you might want. So yeah, that was kind of very, very high level overview. I don't know if there are any questions. It's quite difficult to do without seeing maps or plans, but
yeah, I think you said, well, hopefully by the time, next time we meet, we'll have those graphics, and that's something that the councillors will be really happy to share. I suppose coming in from that, you know, it was a long time that we did have our walk. What I suppose what I'd like to know, and I suppose what people would like to know, is how can we in the area all have an input into that from now. I suppose I went last year. I went to an event at Highfield Hall, which was basically just asking people to come up with their vision and dreams for Hall Green, and they said just ask for whatever you want, don't kind of think it needs money, it needs approval. And we had this really good sort of dreaming session, and yes, some wild ideas came out of it. I want a monorail, or a high level monorail all the way to the city up Stratford Road. That would solve a lot of problems. But we also kind of thought actually having a sort of covered area like a Rialto with shops and community centres. So and I think, what can we actually ask the community to say what they would love to see, whether it's practical or not, but what they want, rather than sort of taking it from we've got this plan and everyone's got to fit into it. I think we really need to get on to some neighbourhood planning. And I'm not sure if Abdul can ask his questions yet, but he is asking what's the starting point and finishing point along the Stratford Road for this project. I know it's been looking at Hall Green, but you sort of can't sort of just do Hall Green and forget about the bit of the Stratford Road that gets you to Hall Green.
Yeah, so I think, okay, I'll start with the first one, Councillor Robson. So yeah, any ideas will be welcome. So as soon as we've got the document sort of formatted in a draft form with the graphics and ready to go, it will be heard. We'll try and arrange several online sessions where people can log in and talk to us about the document. We'll try and come along to another ward forum as well. So we'll do everything we can. If we're out of COVID, but hopefully we would have started by then, but if we're out of COVID, I'd like to organise some on the ground drop-in sessions as well so people can come in. And yeah, any ideas are welcome. It's just that obviously what we put in is a starter for 10 to get conversations going. That's literally all it is. In terms of where the second question about where it ends, I think the original brief was to be looking at sort of like local centres. So yeah, in terms of the spaces in between the centres, it's focusing primarily on the Stratford Road, and at the minute we've been looking at it in terms of connectivity between two. But again, if there's any ideas, again, for any specific ideas and projects in between the centres along that corridor, we'd be more than happy to hear about that as well.
Okay, I'm going to see if anyone's got any more questions, and I know Councillor Brennan will probably want you to come and look at Sparkhill, which is a local centre, and talk about some of the work that's going on there. Does anybody have any questions for Andrew? Councillor Brennan. Also, I must just say welcome to Sergeant Hanny Fuller, who's just joined the meeting. I'm very glad you could come from the police. So, and the police know all about road safety, which is a big thing. When we had our site visit to Stratford Road, we did raise the whole question of the Bull's Head and that crossing at Highfield Road, because as you remember, and a lot of you would have signed this, we had a petition to council saying, desperately need something done. Unfortunately, when you talk to people about more road funding, they say, well, the priority goes to, the more accidents, the more deaths, the more injuries, the more likely you are. So I suggested that Andrew and his colleagues might like to stand in the middle of the road and get run over, but they refused. So
you need someone to do the framework for you, though. That's the thing.
That's it. Yeah, we let you off. But yeah. So, Councillor Brennan, your question, please.
Councillor Robson, I didn't have a question. I just wrote in the chat that it'd be nice to organise a visit for Sparkhill side of the Stratford Road. I'm sure residents would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely not a problem. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, any more questions for Andrew? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming along. I did have lots of maps and pictures from when we actually talked about this at award forum when we actually met in the Hall Green Community Church, and I left them all out on a table, and half of them had disappeared by the time I came to gather them up, so they're probably on someone's wall, but that will definitely be following up, and hope you'll be regular visitor here. So we're going to move on to the final item. So really, I think Councillor Brennan has a councillor update. Also, we had a police update, which I don't know if Councillor Brennan or Sergeant Uller will give. But one thing we really want to look at, and this comes out of what Hamira's saying, you know, what Andrew's saying about all the opportunities for people to get involved. Just to talk about some of the community groups that are active in the area. So if people want to talk about the groups they're involved in, the work they do, could I hear from people? I know we and then councillors and officers might come in. So Saima Suleiman.
Hi, thank you, Councillor Lou. Yeah, I'm part of a group in Hall Green North called, well, we started off by being called Hall Green Street Angels, and then we had some complaints that it sounds a bit too feminine, so I think the name's changed now to Hall Green, Hall Green's Keeping It Clean. Yeah, so it was just a group of residents who sort of got together virtually, sort of met up on Facebook, and sort of thought, you know, there's a lot of rubbish around. You know, during the pandemic, we've seen an increase in littering and fly tipping. So we thought, well, why don't we get together and do something about it? And we've got you know, a fantastic one of the organisers, Neelam, who couldn't join us today, but. I just read your comment. Angels are meant to, yeah. So basically, we what the way that we've organised is that everyone sort of adopts a street, you know, that they can actually go and do litter picks safely, sort of on their daily walks. So yeah, and it's been really good, and it's, you know, the main form of communication through people has been online, on Facebook, and everyone's been sort of posting pictures into the group, so they'll go out and do their little litter pick and post the pictures online, and it's been really amazing just to see the kind of response and how it's made people feel. You know, it's been really positive, and it's sort of given people something to sort of be you know, happy about, you know, what's otherwise been like a really difficult time, and it's really sort of brought the community spirit out. I think in people, you know, even though we can't physically meet, you know, online, it's like a group of people who've got a common goal. They want to improve the community, and they're working together, and it's just grown. And I think we've got over 200 people on the group now online, and it's growing every day, and it's really fantastic. So yeah, it's really nice to sort of see if, you know, other areas can. I know there is quite a lot of groups in other areas as well, but just sort of if we can connect with other groups in other areas, that would be great as well.
Thank you very much, Saima. Yeah, it's been absolutely amazing, that group. It's just sprung up and it's galvanised so many people. I'm actually going to announce that I've set up a poster competition with that group, so anybody can apply, but what we're looking is for adults, teenagers and children, separate categories, to design posters. The best ones are there'll be prizes for the best ones, and they'll be laminated. We're getting people to put them in their windows, so we want a big community effort with posters in windows. We're going to try and get them in shops, and the best ones will go up on the notice boards. And one of the things that's happening is that it's not just the Clean and Green group. This is now going to link in, I hope, you know, and Hamira's talking about it, that we can sort of extend that to looking after the green spaces, and so on. We've got so many good groups in the area. There's the Sarehole Environmental Action Team. There is the Friends of the Library, who look after the inside and the outside of the library, and hopefully that community room there will soon be open. We've got church groups. We've got Val here from the community church, and that space, you know, that people do planting around that area. It would be lovely to extend that into that triangle space in front of the church. We've got groups that look after the planting at Hall Green Station, Spring Road, all the stations along the Shakespeare line, and there are other groups. So I don't know, Councillor Brennan and Abdul Khan, you know, you said you're from the Friends of Sparkhill Park. Can we just hear about some of the groups in the Sparkhill area?
Hi, can you hear me now? Hello? Hello?
I can hear you.
Can anybody else hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, okay.
Yes,
Sorry.
loud and clear. Go ahead, Abdul. Nice to hear you. Nice to have you join us.
No, I've had some connectivity problems, unfortunately. I apologise for that. Around Sparkhill, I think with COVID, obviously, there's been a sort of increase in, again, what Hamira was saying, in the local park. So we notice obviously more and more people are using the park now as a place to sort of obviously exercise, walks, family walks, etc. So in terms of Friends of Sparkhill Park, I think we've got the Friends of Sparkhill Park, Sparkhill Street Watch, and these two sort of groups are interlinked. So we just look at the local areas. So in terms of the park at the moment, we liaise with park services, but we're always looking to improve what we can do in Sparkhill Park. So it's great to obviously hear from the sort of initiatives today, which will definitely obviously contact and see what we can do in terms of improving that space and making it better. In terms of local issues in Sparkhill, with the Street Watch, obviously limited with doing walks because of COVID, etc. But obviously been monitoring things over the internet and emails, and just sort of highlighting things of that come up, our parking issues, rubbish issues, and some antisocial behaviour as well. Again, we're sort of tackling that with the local police, Sergeant and Leave Sergeant today, and with the local councillor as well. So we're trying to obviously get to the root of the problems, and obviously might not eliminate them, but we're trying to reduce them some way where we can, obviously. So it's making it a bit more friendly, more green space in terms of the park and Stratford Road. And the final thing we're doing at the moment is also trying to set up a local Sparkhill business forum. So we're doing that at the moment, and that's early stages yet. So hopefully, watch this space and try and get that business forum set up in the next sort of 6 months.
Abdul, I thought it might be an idea as well if you wanted to talk about what you wanted to do in the park regarding football and what support we could want for that too.
Yeah. We've sort of approached an organisation that is actually sort of providing sort of football training clubs. At the moment, they're sort of at Edward Road Park in Bushel Heath, and also on Ladypool Road with the park there, where they're offering sort of Saturday football club. Males, females, youngsters up to the age of 16. So we're looking at trying to get that sorted out. I think with COVID, a little bit for our ending parts where we can sort of get that up and running, hopefully in the summer.
Fantastic. There's so much going on everywhere, and we're all joining it. We do have Street Watch as well in Hall Green. Wasim, I've got a question from you, and I will ask Councillor Brennan just to speak about some more of the groups, particularly the Sparkhill flag group. Wasim?
Hi guys, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes, we
you.
can hear you.
That's
Go ahead.
brilliant. So it's my first time on the meeting, so thank you for obviously setting this up. My name is Basim. I'm from the one of the local mosques in Sparkhill. I've recently met Sergeant Hanif as well. So we're an organisation. We've got approximately 6 mosques in Birmingham, and just recently, just to give some good news, we've been raising a lot of the society issues. So this past Friday on via our Friday prayers, we raised the issue of domestic abuse, because obviously we've seen the rise in that, especially during the lockdown. So we've got some good proposals. Hopefully we've got some campaigns launching towards the end of this month, especially in regards to fly tipping. So just wanted to share that with you guys. And second of all, to both of the councillors, I've sent an email to you both, I think today, just to request a meeting, because we've got some good proposals, and hopefully try to reduce the litter and the fly tipping. So hopefully, whenever you get a chance, if you can just have a meeting with you guys, that would be great.
Hi, Wasim. I have got your email. It's on my list to reply to. I don't know if other residents know, but I've been quite sick over the last couple of weeks. I'm not feeling brilliant myself now, so like my out of office and stuff has been on. So I'm really sorry that there's been a delay, but I'd love to meet with you.
That's brilliant. Hopefully soon then, and I hope you get better soon as well.
Thank you, and yes, thank you very much to Nikki for coming along tonight. She really has not been well at all, and yeah. Val and Brian, I don't know if you want to talk about any of the groups at the community church.
There's not a lot to say at the moment, Lou, because we haven't been meeting very much. We've been mainly meeting on Zoom. But I know people are still very keen to keep the area around that part of Hall Green looking good. And so we've been making an effort to work on the corner there with York Road and Reddings Lane. And we're really looking forward to being able to, for the restrictions to be relaxed a bit, so that we can get back and get more into action.
I think everybody is. But we won't hurry it.
No, that's right.
Also, just some of the amazing things. Sorry, can people switch their microphones off? Yeah. Just amazing things that have been going on. Everybody has been meeting mainly online during the pandemic. But you know, things that are going on, the massive effort at the food bank at Church of the Ascension, the Narthex, St John's, Highfield Hall, a group that Councillor Brennan and Simon Sullivan and I were involved in doing shopping and helping out. So it's how do we keep them connected? And Hamira and Andrew, I hope you can keep in touch with all the groups. Councillor Brennan, would you mind just saying a bit more about other groups in the area? I'm sorry about your voice, but particularly the flood action group, because that's something for Sparkhill and Hall Green.
So the flood action group, we used to meet quite regularly before COVID happened. Meetings take place by a lovely business on Pentos Drive called Indestructible Paint, who are really supportive of helping the community. And it is basically residents have banded together and decided to hold the council, the environmental agency, I think Severn Trent Water and Western Power also come, and there's lots of different parts of the council that come along to those meetings, and it's like a community empowerment action group that discuss the issues that they've had with the flooding from the River Cole, and it's really led by residents. At the moment, I still conduct walkarounds with a one-on-one with one of the residents from Percy Road. you know, it's had some really good successes, like having the drains all pumped out, moving cars, closing the road. There's a camera up now on the River Cole, which means residents can tap in on their phones and check the river levels. So, you know, coming together as a community really has empowered those residents to make those differences. And people are feeling less anxious in their homes, thinking that things have happened. So there is an email address, which is sparkhillflag@gmail.com, which you can, sorry, I've got a bit of brain fog, which you can contact and get involved. It's a really, really great group. It goes all the way onto the Foreman's Road, all the way up up Percy Road, and on the bits of Knoll and Solihull Road that have been affected by flooding in Sparkhill. Yes, you can have a cheese string. Sorry, my daughter's just come in.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and I think we've got some people. Obviously, we've had flooding in Sparkhill Road, so some people from there are joining. I don't know if what we'll do now. I think we'll open it up to general questions. Councillor Brennan, I know you had a quick council update, but I'm very conscious of your health. So
yeah, I've got a bit of foggy brain still.
Yep. Well, it's late in the evening, so everybody's got a brain fog. If people want to put email addresses, contacts in the chat, we'll list those. We'll also send those out when we send out the presentations, so everyone can keep in touch. It's so, you know, for us as councillors, we you know, we do our best, but we want to be able to hear from the community and connect in and you know, it's our job to support all the groups. So yeah, there's lots of things going on, and we have to keep going at it. Sergeant Hanif has been I think he's been coming in and out of the meeting. So is Sergeant Hanif, are you there? Are you able to give a police update? I'll just look at who's actually in the meeting.
I've got the email of it if he's not, so I can read out his email.
If he is here, but maybe if you want to just the highlights, and then anything you want to add from a councillor's report, because we want to give people a chance to have their say.
Do you want to give people a chance first, and I'll find it, because I've got to search through my emails to get it up. So
okay, right, this is where we open up the meeting to the floor, and anything anything you want to, you know, say, comment, raise, ask for some action on, or just talk about events that are coming up. Well, one thing I will say is I had a notification today that there are some vaccination clinics going on at in Etwall Road in Hall Green South, the mosque, Jesus and Mary Mosque, and these are for people over 65 or who are under that age of vulnerable and haven't been contacted for vaccines yet. So that I'll try, and I don't know if I can share that information, but it's on my Facebook page, and that's tomorrow. So if you get in touch with the mosque, they'll be able to set that up. So if you know anybody who would like a vaccination, please let them know. So questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, dreams for Stratford Road? Can I see, so anybody want to put their hand up?
Oh, I'm happy to give this police report now, Lou.
Okay.
So what we've got is he has put just a little update around police activity on Springfield Ward. So that covers Sparkhill and some of Hall Green North. So the first one is drugs. A week ago, together with a number of other police teams, we executed 6 drug warrants, early morning raids at 6 premises, and covered a significant amount of cash and Class A drugs, and arrested several suspects. so that's a good success. HMOs, we continue to visit HMOs and use our licensing powers to support our partner agencies such as Birmingham City Council licensing, although this has not been too productive, mostly due to the COVID lockdown. Domestic abuse. On a daily basis, we make arrests for domestic abuse offenders, and a number of arrests have been made. There has been a significant increase of domestic abuse during the COVID lockdown, and due to this risk of harm, we are taking incidents of domestic abuse very seriously. Most recently, some mosques have been supported us in delivering messages on Friday prayers to discourage such violence. I'm very pleased to hear that from the police. Under 21's violent crime. This is also one of our priorities, particularly as figures do indicate that a high proportion of violent crime is linked to both offenders and victims being under 25. We are conducting a number of intervention and prevention visits to any youth suspected of violent crime, either through intelligence or crime. They've conducted 4 speeding operations in the last few weeks using handheld mobile speed cameras. This has been on Stratford Road, Yardley Wood Road, Reading Lane and another on the roads. I think it'd be really good if any residents have any ideas of where they'd like speeding operations to take place, and I can pass that on to the police. Schools, those schools are closed. Well, they're still open to key workers, but most children are at home. PCSO Cllr has conducted a few sessions with students using Zoom and Microsoft Teams. This has been very productive and has helped keep our engagement with students during most recent lockdown. And PCSO Cllr is absolutely brilliant at these. If you look on the police's Twitter page, you will always see little videos of him, and I think he's absolutely fantastic with his engagement with schools. Layla, I'm busy in a meeting. Okay, you can have one of those, but I'm just busy in a meeting. Okay, just give me 5 minutes. Yes, Layla, go and get one. Sorry, Layla. Yes, go. I'm really sorry. West Midlands now. We still need more residents to sign up. Due to COVID lockdown, the number of residents signing up has reduced. Therefore, we'd like to encourage residents to sign up. This can be found on the West Midlands Police website. And finally, COVID lockdown. This has meant that the police resourcing has been directed to this new area of business in ensuring the community comply with lockdown measures. This has not always been easy, as it's suspected that some business premises may be breaching, even though the reason for lockdown is more for the safety of the community. This is the first time in which policing has had to take on a new way of working and enforcement action has been necessary. This also applies to the general public being persuaded to wear face coverings when entering buildings. So that's my update from the police. And thank you to Sergeant Hanny for sending that over. And I'm really sorry my daughter decided to interrupt me talking about hot cross buns.
Thank you very much. We've got a question in the chat from Bob Harvey, talking about speeding on Stratford Road, worse in the evenings and weekends, and speed checks happen during the daytime. So a request for speed checks be carried out during the hours of darkness or weekends. Absolutely. That's not something that the councillors councillors can mention that. That's something that does need to be taken up with the police, and we constantly pass that on. You know, that there is something talking of community groups, we're hoping to set up a speed watch, which is where you know, residents can actually help out here. We've got some speed not cameras, but the speed alert signs that show what speed that you're going. They're initially going to go in Cateswell Road, which has been a real problem. We've had a petition about that, and Shirley Road, and hopefully that will make people a bit more aware. But absolutely, Bob, yeah, the speeding all over, perhaps because there's less traffic. But the racers are out in force, and it's really dangerous. thank you for that. Did you want to say anything, Bob? Did you want to actually make a comment? No, that's fine, and thanks for coming, Bob. We're coming to the end of the meeting, but does anybody have any more questions or comments they want to make? You don't have to say them all in the chat. It's a meeting for everyone.
I think from a council perspective as well, it's been really lovely to see the bollards be put in on Foreman's Road, Percy Road, Norwell Road and Solihull. There's been some lovely comments from residents about how it's actually stopped the cars parking on the corners, and it's much nicer as well. So that's been great. And I think another success has been Oakwood Road being finally resurfaced, and I'll now take my battle on to get Fernley Road resurfaced.
Thank you, and I know how much effort it takes to get these things into action. Some other things that are going on around Hall Green, we're still waiting. We've been working with the schools to get them to sign up to a safety program that unlocks money. So we're waiting for barriers to go in at the top of Petersfield Road around the Hall Green infant school, which is a real nightmare, as everybody knows, for problem parking and safety. Also over on Staplehurst Road, we're spending some housing environmental money on putting in some fences to protect green spaces around the Pitmaston estate. And Councillor Ahmed and I have a long list of requests from residents for money to spend our traffic budget on this year. So we're trying to come up with we're coming up with a balance. Obviously safety measures are a priority, but we're hearing so much from people who want work done on their green verges. And I've got Hanif Fuller asking if he can have a few words. So Sergeant Hanif, over to you.
Hi there, am I coming through okay?
Yes, we can see and hear you.
Right, firstly, apologies for coming in so late. It is a really difficult time at the moment. I think we all get this with the COVID lockdown. And even myself at home, I'm actually at home now, but we had to do our children's homework, so I didn't come into this meeting till 20 minutes ago, so apologies for being late. I think a really key message from ourselves, I do know there'll be some disappointment from communities in terms of engagement and making contact with the police. It's definitely not been our normal way of business. And I'm sure there'll be, it's not just unique to Sparkhill, this is a national lockdown. There's definitely been problems. I know the community have not had the opportunity to engage with the police as much as they'd like to. But the way we've had to change the way we've been policing, and the council has obviously read out a bit of an update, has significantly changed how we've been doing things recently. So there'll be lots of priorities for us at the moment, far more than what was mentioned in that email, and too many to mention. But we're trying our best. So I just want to say apologies for the community if they felt that things haven't gone, or they haven't really got sort of updates as much as they'd like to have had. So just a sort of more than a sorry really, but we are trying our best.
Thank you very much, and we all appreciate all the things that police have been doing in the lockdown. Everything's changed for everybody, and everybody's been reacting in different ways, and yeah, no, everything is much appreciated, so please take that back. Well, unless do people have any further questions? This is your chance to speak and ask. If I don't see any more hands going up, I'm going to close the meeting, and I'm going to close the meeting with a farewell, I suppose, because some of you may know I'm standing down as councillor for Hall Green North this month, and it's I just want to say what a absolute privilege it's been to be the councillor here in Hall Green North, to work with people throughout the area, you know, and also you know, Sparkhill, because the two areas are very close. Just what an amazing bunch of people, groups, churches, mosques, schools, just absolutely amazing. And it's just been my privilege to get to know, sadly not out and about as much, but it's just been absolutely wonderful. So there will be a by-election on May the 6th, and we do actually have a Labour candidate chosen. There are other parties available, and that's Sima, who, as you heard, who's involved in a lot of community groups, and she's wonderful. But you'll hear, I'm sure you'll hear more about that. So just thank you very much, and I couldn't have done it without all your support, interest, emails, petitions, requests, Facebook comments and everything. So thank you very much.
I think I'd just like to say a massive thank you to my ward neighbour, Councillor Robson, and how much I will miss her through everything at council, and how much of a great friend and colleague she's been to me. And it's a bit funny to do like a round of applause on a Zoom call, but there's a little clap for you, Lou, and I will really miss you, and good luck to everything you do in the future.
Thank you very much. And it's a good, and Hall Green's going to have to find a new mascot, and Fido's very much looking forward to having his mummy back and not in meetings every evening. So just a thank you again to all the officers and all the residents who've come along. I think we've got, you know, we've had a really good exploration, and yeah, it's up to all of you to take all our ambitions for Hall Green and Sparkhill forward. So with that, thank you very much to Bev for all the organisation, and from that, it's good night. And